Hey there, and welcome to this tutorial where I'm going to show you how you can set up an Ubuntu virtual machine on your local machine and how you can install a MySQL database on it that you can use for testing purposes, for example, or if you just want to play around with MySQL server a little bit, then you can use it very well for that. So I've already downloaded this Oracle VirtualBox manager here that we're going to use to set up our virtual machine. I'm going to just click New and give it a name like Ubuntu example. The machine folder where the machine is going to be stored, I will just use the folder where this recording is going to. Type is Linux. The version we're going to use is Ubuntu 64 bit here, and we're going to go with a memory size of 2048, and we will directly create a virtual hard disk here. The hard disk will go into that same folder here, and we're going to give it a size of 25 gigabytes. The bigger the better, of course, but for our purpose here, 25 gigabytes will be definitely enough. It's just if you plan on using this machine for more stuff, then you might want to consider to use a bigger size here, because it's quite nasty to change it after you have created your machine. We are going to go to dynamic allocation here, and just going to use this VDE file type here. Only thing that I forgot is to give it a name. So going with Ubuntu example.vde, going to create this hard disk, and you can see it has already created the machine here that we are going to start now. And I've already downloaded the Ubuntu image file that you can download from the Ubuntu releases web page, and I'm going to put a link in the description if you want to go with that one. So I've already downloaded this image file here. Otherwise, you would just go with the folder here and pick it yourself. So we're going to use this image file, and so it's going to start up here, and we have to go through the installation process at first. So here we are into the installation process of our Ubuntu virtual machine, and we're going to go with the English language here. We don't want to update the installer for now. I'm not interested in this. Here you can use your keyboard settings. As I have a German keyboard here, I'm going to go with the German keyboard with this one. The network configuration, we can leave it as a default. Proxy address is not interesting for us. Mirror address isn't either. And we want to use this disk that we have just created before in the Oracle manager in the VirtualBox application. So we're going just to go with the defaults here. Yes. And then we can give it a name here. Oops. Ubuntu example is the server's name, and I'm going to pick here something simple. We can decide whether we want to install an OpenSSH server here. We can do this. We don't really need this for this example, but this way you will be able to access your server over SSH later. So we can do this. Here we can decide whether we want to add any additional services here. We don't need this for now. We can always install them later. So that's we can go with the default settings here. So this will also take a while, and I think I will cut this out too. We have to wait here a little bit until the machine is installing. So the installation has finished, and it has also downloaded and installed some security updates, which took a while, and now we need to reboot the system, and afterwards we can start and install our MySQL server here. It says that we should remove the installation medium, which we're just going to continue, and now it's rebooting the system, and we're good to go actually. So now that the system has rebooted, I'm going to log in with the credentials that I've entered during the installation process. And now we can, first thing we should do is tell the package manager to update the package references. That's what we normally always should do when we install a system here, and then we're going to upgrade all the packages that are already installed. So now that the packages are up to date and upgraded, we can continue and download the latest repository for our SQL package. I've got the address here. I'm just gonna type it quickly. And we need to do this to get the latest version of it. So that's that. And then we need this command here. So basically we need to do this so we get the latest version when we call the package manager. Yes, we can go with the default settings here. You can see that we have selected MySQL 8.0 here, and that's fine. So we're just going to go with the default settings here. And then we need to update the references here. And now we're good to go to install the MySQL server package. So yes, I want to install all of these packages, and when that's done, we're going to start directly, and we're going to to configure some security settings, and we're going to set the root user and its password here. So the package is installed now, and we are going to run this MySQL server script here, which is called MySQL Secure Installation. It's going to ask us some questions. The first one is whether we want to have some security guidelines in place for our passwords. I'm going to go with no here for our virtual machine here, because we're normally you would answer this yes probably if this was a production environment machine. So we're going to pick a password for our root user here. And do we want to remove anonymous users? Yes, we can do this. Disallow root login remotely. Yeah, we can do this too. And remove the test database. Yes, why not? And we're going to reload the privileges table if because something may have changed there through these settings, and so the MySQL server has the most recent settings. And the service should now be running, I guess. Yes, it's already running. And now we can proceed and configure the access to our MySQL server from a remote address. And what I'm going to do for this, I'm going to shut down the machine now. I'm not sure whether we have to do this or whether it will work just like this, but we have to go into the settings of our VirtualBox manager here, go to network, and we have to select here the bridged adapters, so our virtual machine is available from outside, because otherwise I will not be able to access my SQL server from my local machine where the VirtualBox is installed. So I'm going to confirm this, and I'm going to start the machine again. And what we need to do now is, first of all, we should get the IP of our local machine and of our virtual machine on the network, because we will need this for the remote access configuration. So if you're on Windows, you can simply use the ipconfig command here, and you see that my IP address here is this one, and we're going to need this soon. So the machine has booted, and we're going to log in here again, and then we're going to get the IP address of this machine on our local network. We can simply do this with an IPA command, and then you will see down on the bottom you see the IPv4 address is 192.168.2.192. I'm going to write this down here quickly, and then what we need to do, we have to adapt the configuration file for the MySQL service that is located in the etc MySQL directory here in the MySQL config daemon directory. It should be here. Yes, and we're going to edit this configuration here. Yes, the password, it wants the password. And what we need to do here is go to the bind address here that is currently binding to our local host loop address, and that essentially means that we're currently only able to access this MySQL server from our local host machine. And what we need to bind here is, the address should be the address of our virtual machine on the network here, and it is, as I have just found out, it's 192.168.2.192. So we're going to insert this address here, and we're going to save it into this configuration file. So now for this configuration to take effect, we should restart the MySQL service, and then we can start the MySQL service, and we are going to create a user now that we're going to use for the remote access from our local machine. So I'm just going to create a user here. I will call him remote user, and the IP address that he's going to use is the one of our actual machine on the network that I have found out through the ipconfig command on my Windows machine here. And yes, we're going to create this user here, identified by, yeah, let's just have some strong password here. So I created the user, and also what I have to do is to grant him the privileges here, and I'm going to grant it on everything. So this is of course nothing that you normally would do for security reasons, obviously, but this is totally fine for our test machine here. 168.2.161, yeah, exactly. So grant all privileges on everything with the grant option here. So I've already I've also entered a command to flush the privileges so that so the service is up to date here, and this is basically everything that we needed to change here, and we can exit the MySQL program here, and what we need to do here still is to configure the firewall so that it allows us access from the actual machine's remote address here. So I'm going to configure the firewall here to allow from our, what was the address, 192.168.2.161 to any and on port 3306. So we've updated the rules of our firewall, and normally that's everything what we have to do, and we should be able to access our virtual machine MySQL server now from outside. So I have this beautiful MySQL workbench running here on my system, and I'm simply going to create a new connection here, Ubuntu example MySQL database. So the address of the virtual machine was like this. Well, this is the default port for our MySQL service. The user that I have configured was called the remote user, and yes, we can leave all those settings here normally, and we should be able to access this with our secure password here. Yeah, it made the connection successfully, so we can just click OK, and now we have this connection here, as you can see. So now that we have access to our MySQL database here on the virtual machine, for testing purposes we could go back to our console window here, and we could run some MySQL commands. We could create a database called testdb, and we're going to use this database, and we're going to create a table named test table here, and just create something here, name char128, and yeah, table should now be created, and we should be able to see the table with our remote user here in the MySQL workbench when we refresh the view. And here you can see the table is there, and we're good to go to use our virtual machine MySQL server for our development purposes. And that's all for this tutorial, and thank you for watching this. If you have any suggestions or questions, please feel free to put a comment below the video. I'd be very glad for some feedback on whether you have some suggestions for improving these videos, or if you just want to leave a like if this video was helpful for you. And yeah, that's basically it. See you soon. Bye.